Well, Nvidia, like most chip makers, has struggled with geopolitical concerns, tariff policies, and global marketplace risks. Our next guest is a geopolitical strategist who works with businesses and governments to help mitigate risk. Reva Goujon is a director at Rhodium Group. It's a research and advisory firm focusing on global challenges and data analysis. Reva, it is great to see you as always. So let me get your take, Reva, on this Nvidia report, and specifically, Reva, what do you make of what they're telling us about business in China?
Well, they are certainly lamenting declining business in China due to the H-20 ban. As we know, Jensen referred to that as a deeply painful hit, affecting some 15 billion in potential sales of the China market. So obviously, they're not thrilled about that, but it was a long time coming, right? And Nvidia is also trying to use a lot of momentum in the moment from Trump's overhaul of the Biden era AI diffusion rule, which opens up third markets for Nvidia to deploy its GPUs while still closing off China. But they're trying to use that momentum to also push for a broader easing of chip controls on China directly. There are just a lot of reasons why I don't think that latter part is going to happen.
Well, and Reva, Nvidia continues to try to sort of get around these export controls. There's been reporting that it's developing another chip to ship into China, although it did say in a filing today that it might be unable to provide and create that product that would be a competitive one in China. Do you think it does succeed in sort of getting around the rules as it has been?
It's tough. I mean, there is a cat and mouse game between BIS regulators at Commerce on the one hand and Nvidia on the other. Of course, Nvidia is going to be the prime target under scrutiny for the design of any potential controls. And so, with this, the kind of variant of the Blackwell chip for the China market, from what we can tell, right, they have designed it to strip down the memory bandwidth by more than half compared to the original H20. They designed this without any advanced CoWoS, advanced packaging technology. So it's a stripped down chip, and it is going to come at a discount, but this is where you also have Huawei with a competitive edge, offering discounted chips that are also going to be at higher performance.
Reva, President Trump right now does seem to be a fan of Jensen Huang. You saw them in the Middle East together. That's a nice place for Jensen to be. I'm wondering how you think Jensen Huang maybe could try and capitalize on that relationship, capitalize on that friendship, Reva.
Well, it's a mixed bag, right? There are a number of tech influencers surrounding the president, and he's hearing from all of them. But there are also lines being drawn, and I think the message here for a company like Nvidia and others is focus on the ex-China market for your growth, right? Don't bank on that market for your future. That AI infrastructure buildouts have to happen all around the world. Jensen has taken this message globally of this idea of AI sovereignty, and he wants Nvidia to be at the epicenter of those buildouts. From a policy perspective, the White House agrees and says, this is the time to lock in those AI infrastructure dependencies so that it's U.S. made and designed chips and U.S. hyperscalers that are leading these build-outs globally, but not in China. Right. And so that's the catch here. So whenever you're looking at any one of these tech influencers, there's always going to be some give and take on how far that influence actually goes.
And Reva, speaking of give and take, remind us where you stand in terms of whether these export controls are the right way to go, whether, you're balancing effectively driving China to develop its own homegrown industry versus this sort of national security concerns on the U.S. side of shipping these chips in. Kind of where do you come out on that balance?
I mean, there are a lot of folks who will say that, look, it's better to keep Chinese companies dependent on U.S. technology. And so if a company like Nvidia can offer a more superior chip, then let it sell into this market freely, and that the U.S. can then harness that strategic dependence for the longer term, as Chinese companies would prefer the better product. Now, the counter argument to that is that, look, when it comes to China's tech self-reliance goals, those are already working on steroids at this point, right? Where the directives from the state is to any company in China to say, don't rely on or don't bank your future on access to advanced U.S. technology. Assume that it won't be there. there and do everything you can to accelerate your production toward self-reliance. And you're seeing some really interesting things from Chinese memory chip makers like CXMT, which is not yet on the BIS entity list, but probably will be soon. But they are really driving toward just advanced memory, HBM, trying to gear toward AI development overall. And so this is really a test of China's industrial policy, of whether it's going to apply lessons learned from previous rounds where there was a lot of waste and corruption, and whether these external factors like US chip controls are going to drive more focus, smarter money flows this time around to yield real breakthroughs. But the US chip controls are a real barrier, and it appears that they're only going to tighten further.
Reva, always good to see you and have you on the show. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Josh.